Welcome back to Saving Ophelia. Last fall I managed to cajole the angry pixies from the shore power station to Ophelia with the 50-meter cable that I put together. But the pixies managed to get back at me during the winter. Or maybe I just didn't have the forethought to make sure that the free length of the cable was adequate, but not so long that it could fall down between Ophelia and the quay, and subsequently get hammered flat between the steel hull and the wooden parts of the quay during the winter. Either way, the cable now looks like this and shorts out the shore power connection whenever I turn on the power. Fortunately, the ruined part of the cable isn't too far from the end of it, so I won't lose too much length when I cut off the damaged part. Fixing the cable isn't too big of a deal. It's just as simple as when I built the cable in the first place, but I'll have to think about how I place the cable when I put it back in place so that these issues won't occur again. This time around, I decided to shorten the ground lead so that it could act as a strain relief for the live leads as intended by the design of the plug. With the power back on, I once again used the pump to get rid of the rainwater that keeps sneaking in. While I waited, I took some measurements for a new but temporary electrical box for Ophelia. So 16 times, times 19. That should account for the panel itself. Then we need some space at the edges for connectors and for the fuse box. So I'd better measure the fuse box as well. So fuse box is 6.5 deep and 5 wide. So 5 times 6.5. And let's see, not really need it because it's less than 19, but more 14. So what I need to remember is 6.5 times 5. Welcome back to my workshop. I've moved things around a bit so I can use my inherited table saw. It's a German precision tool made by Shepach. Well, at least it's German made, because Shepach may make quality tools for all I know, but this isn't one of them. I did a few test cuts yesterday on this piece that I took out of Ophelia, and well, the results aren't exactly encouraging. It's like 35 centimeters long, but I get a deviation of just around 3 to 4 millimeters over this length, and that gives me a deviation of about 1%. It's not exactly a horrible deviation, but it does add up quickly. So what's the matter? Well, it turns out that the saw blade isn't parallel to the miter grooves. So if I use the fence or the angular sled that comes along with this table, well, then I'll get these deviations, and that won't do. Well, for this project, the one things I'm going to cut now, it wouldn't really matter, but yeah, I can't have it. That's the thing about having had a grandfather who was a carpenter. It just doesn't sit right. So I have to do something about it. And we can see that my dad was aware of this, because he drew up the cutting line, the real line from the blade here. And if I just ditch the fence and everything else and build my own, that's taken, well, from this line, then everything should be just fine. But it is slightly annoying not being able to use the features that this table has, even though, well, as I said, it's not exactly high quality. I brought out the table saw because I want to build a new electrical box for Ophelia. The current one, well, it's hardly a box, it's just a board. So I have exposed hot leads on the back side, and that's really just asking for trouble. I don't feel like electrocuting myself. And, well, I also want to ditch the existing electrical system completely. I've been cutting wires left and right, and I can't see what's connected to where, so I'll do something different. Just bypass everything. And I'm going to build a new box that I'm going to mount on the glass fiber back wall right next to the companionway. And for that, I'll need some wood. I want to have just an edge made from this, then a back side and a front. And on the front, I'll mount the existing panel. And it's just a few gauges and an on and off switch. But anyway, I need to cut this, and I need it to be parallel and, well, straight, because if you look at this straight edge, it's more straight-ish, and, well, this obviously needs to go. And there's some screw holes here. It doesn't really matter. I could just leave those in place, but that's the thing about having had a grandfather who was a carpenter. It just doesn't sit right. I need this to be, well, decent. And for that, they need to go. And I think if I cut this edge off straight, just skim it, and then cut this right where the screw holes are, I'll have about 8 centimeters left, and that should be, well, plenty to build the frame for a box. And then I'll take some other pieces from Ophelia and use those for the back and the front. And then I'll leave space on the side. I just need 5 centimeters for the plugs and for the what we call the fuse box, the one that's mounted in the Ophelia right now. I'll move it over here. There are fuses in the shorepower box, but I think it won't hurt to double up on the safety. Better safe than sorry, as they say. So I ditched the fence because, well, it wouldn't help much anyway. So I'll rig up something else so I can get some parallel cuts going at, well, about 8 centimeters, I think. So let's get that done. The exact dimensions I'm cutting in doesn't really matter too much right now. I just want things to be straight. So I think I have the right thing to use as a fence. It's not really intended for that, but let's see if it doesn't work. this should be completely straight, and if I fasten it with a few clamps, that should be serviceable if I get it parallel. But as I said earlier, I have this straight line here, and if I go, well, the distance from that, same distance here and here, this should be, well, it should work. Yeah, we're about 3 millimeters off over this length, so I guess that should be okay. That would just be me being, well, in Danish the expression would be a fly fucker. Not perfect, but I guess it'll do. I hope you enjoy these videos, and I'd like to hear any feedback you might have in the comments. If you feel like supporting the creation of these videos and the restoration of Ophelia, you can do so on my Patreon or by signing up as a member of this channel. Either way, thank you for your interest in my project. Odd, for some reason it started smelling like pee when I cut this. Yeah. 7.5. 7.5. So yeah, 7.5. So if nothing else, then these two sides are now parallel, and well, will be the first step. So the next step is to get rid of, well, this glue that's left over. Again, it probably doesn't matter, but it might, and well, I'll know if it's there, so I'll have to get rid of it. I think I'll use this planer for this. I'm planing plywood, so I need to be quite careful not to go over the edges, so I thin it down. If I run it along the surface, it should just clean off the glue. Should, but oh well, let's see. Yeah, that made a horrible mess, but it did clean off the board just fine. And I didn't cut through the first layer of veneer, so, well, it's not veneer if it's not pretty surface as far as I know, but then what do I know? It's not like English as my first language anyway. The first ply, I guess it's what it's called. Didn't cut through the first ply, just took a bit of it off. And not much, just enough to get the glue gun. So we now have a board with parallel edges and without any glue on it here. So that's the first step, I guess. Well, The first one was cutting, so planing must have been the second step. Well, I guess I won't be needing this right now, so I'll get rid of that. And if I need it again, well, it's not going to be the exact same measurements that I need, so it doesn't matter. And don't worry, I disconnected the table saw, so can't hurt myself on that right now. So I'll need two pieces that are 16 centimeters long, and I'll need two pieces that are 19 centimeters long. So there's plenty of board to take off. And well, now I have an issue because, well, I guess I could mark here where 16 centimeters is, then I can see more or less where I'm cutting, but right now it's just a guesstimate, really. I think the easiest way is to just cut them to length and then later place an end stop where I know it's going to be right, and then, well, then take it from there. So if I go 16 plus and times 2, shouldn't be a problem. So if I take 20 centimeters, then there's plenty of board. Oh, ear protection. This is noisy. There we have 20 centimeters. So, yeah. It should fit perfectly here, and it does. Now, of course, I'll get paint on the inside and on the outside, so doesn't really matter, does it? I need to turn this around, otherwise I'll get odd cuts. The only thing that really matters is that they mix and match, that 2 and 2 they fit together, and that should be achievable. There we go, 4 pieces that should be identical, 2 and 2. These two are exactly the same, and these two are also exactly the same. It's not pretty, but functional. So now I have 4 pieces that 2 of 2 are of equal length. But now these small inaccuracies in the cutting come back to bite me in the backside because, well, they aren't exactly the same width, and that means that we might have a bit of an issue up here on the sloped sides, but there's no way around that, not with this equipment. So I think I'm going to glue them 2 and 2, one of the short ones and one of the long ones. That's a pair. And then we have another pair here, here. Then if I glue them like this is a pair and this is a pair, get that to fit, then I can combine these two tomorrow when the glue is hardened. Thing is, when I glue them like this, these edges are going to be pretty damn sharp. So I think I'm going to use a router to round them off a bit. And that means that I can't really put any screws or nails in there because, well, yeah. Imagine cutting into a nail with a router. Either, well, not either the nail or the router, but both will probably be ruined. Which is not good. So I'll just glue them up like this. See, I don't want the glued parts to stick to this, so I'll use some ordinary plastic. That all the glue won't stick to that, and if it does, it doesn't matter because it's not the stick. I haven't been doing any of this in a very long while, so this is going to be interesting, to say the least. Yeah, that's what happens when you don't think ahead. Damage done, we'll just try again. If at first you don't succeed, then skydiving probably isn't for you. Why does this not work? Oh, that's why. I was too close to the edge of the stick, and that meant that it just twisted around that edge. Let's see if we can fine tune it. As much as we can fine tune anything here. There we go. I just want the edge of this wood to be just where this edge begins, because then I can clamp another one in place and glue them up. And I'll start up here, and then when I force it in, it'll end up in place. Hopefully. Or theoretically, or... Well, almost one. There we go, that was the second one, and then we'll have to wait for the glue to dry. So the glue has had time to harden now. Let's see if my glue up holds up. Might just fall apart. Well, that one survived. It's a bit looser than I would have liked. It's quite open here, but again, it's for something temporary, and well, it's stable in this direction. Let's see if the other one holds up. Well, it hasn't fallen apart yet. Well, it seems it helped. Yeah. So that leaves this part. Yeah. Wasn't perfect. You can see over here, this corner doesn't quite meet up. The other ones actually line up pretty nicely, so it's a bit odd, but oh well, I get what I get, I suppose. Well, let me try it this way. We go for that one, and we just need to line that corner over there. this clamp is most definitely overkill for that job, but it's what I've got at the moment. Let's see. There we go. Now, all four corners are aligned and they're closed properly, and we have a bit of squeeze out. So when this glue dries, we should have good set box. Then I can worry about the corners being straight and all later. But once again, we'll have to wait for the glue to dry up. So the glue has now had, what, 12 hours and a bit to dry up, so I think it should be done. Let's see if it holds up when I remove the clamps. Wow. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. There's uncured glue. Well, it hasn't dried up completely. Not here, but it seems that on the surfaces that were compressed, it's just fine. So only a bit crooked. Oh, quite a bit actually. And this is where I discover that I've messed up, because see, there's paint on this surface and this surface. Those should be opposed to one another. So yeah, this is, yeah, crooked. And now I don't know if I should use it the way it is, or if I should break up the joint and try again. And we're quickly approaching where I need to start, well, editing and compiling. I've edited most of this episode, but I'm not done, and doing the rest does take quite a bit of time. Yeah, I decided that I'm going to break it apart, and these are the seams that need to be broken, and then I'll see, well, then we won't get to the mounting and the finishing this week, so that'll have to be next week. But that's the way things go if you're underwear. And then, well, I wasn't paying close enough attention. I was just focused on getting things glued up, and well, life happens. It does seem that the bond is kind of strong. And obviously it let go where it shouldn't. I can't even... There we go. Oh, it had some tear out. So that was a good one. Yeah, that's gonna be a mess. But no way around it, I guess. Well, I'll get this glued up, and then next week we'll mount it on a board and cut out a hole for the control panel.